When you think of Vietnam, you think of helicopters. And in Hell Let Loose Vietnam, the way these choppers handle for players could make or break the game. Today, we're taking a look at the helicopters we're most likely to see in Hell Let Loose Vietnam, from troop transports to attack gunships, reconnaissance birds, and even heavy lift workhorses. Flying into a hot landing zone, dropping off troops or supplies, medevacing the wounded, or running strafing runs, helicopters will be crucial in this game. We don't know exactly how flying will feel yet, but some players have suggested that they want something easy to pick up, while others are calling for more realistic simulator-like controls. I think the sweet spot is somewhere in between, challenging enough for skilled players to be able to pull off epic maneuvers, but not so hardcore that casual players can't take off or land safely. In my opinion, flying in Hell Let Loose should feel unforgiving, but not frustrating. There should be a learning curve rewarding mastery without shutting out new players. The game covers the conflict roughly from 1965 to 1973, the height of US involvement. That means we probably won't see earlier helicopters that were issued to the French in the 50s or used by the US in the early 60s, like the Sikorsky H-19, the H-5, the Bell H-13 Sioux, or the Przewalski H-21 Shawnee, or Flying Banana as it was known for its funny shape. These early birds were used for transport or light reconnaissance, while purpose-built attack helicopters didn't appear until the mid-1960s. One key point to note is that the North Vietnamese won't have any helicopters, giving the US a clear air mobility advantage, though the NVA will no doubt have their ways to counter these aerial threats. If you're interested, check out my previous video on possible NVA weapons which covers their anti-air capabilities. The Bell UH-1 Iroquois, or Huey, is the iconic workhorse of Vietnam helicopters. Variants served as troop transports, medevacs, and even gunships. The Huey first saw use in Vietnam in 1962 as a medevac aircraft, and by 1963 the UH-1D variant, a troop transport version with its longer fuselage, entered service. It had a crew of up to 4, a pilot, co-pilot, and 2 optional side gunners, plus space for up to 14 troops. In Hell Let Loose terms, that would be 2 6-man infantry squads and a 2-man recon team that could fit in there alongside the pilot and co-pilot. From the mid-60s onwards, gunship variants were even used, equipped with rockets, grenade launchers, front-facing machine guns, and side M60s, and these were intended to provide fire support to secure landing zones and escort the troop-carrying Hueys. Hueys could function as multi-role helicopters, transporting squads to hotspots, providing close air support, or extracting wounded soldiers under fire. Since the game covers 1965 to 1973, the Huey will feature on all maps as it's widely used throughout the US involvement in the conflict. If the Huey is the workhorse, the Bell AH-1 Cobra is the predator, lurking above the tree line. Sleek, fast, and packing a punch, it was built to dominate the skies. The Cobra was the first purpose-built US attack helicopter, and it entered service in 1967 to provide dedicated escort and close air support services. Its stub wings could carry armaments including rockets, grenade launchers, machine guns, and it had a nose-mounted minigun which could fire up to 6,000 rounds per minute. This deadly chopper was operated by a crew of 2, its pilot and gunner. Cobras could operate as high-cost, high-damage air support on maps set from 1967 onwards. On earlier maps, players may have to rely on the less maneuverable Huey gunships. Players might use the Cobras to secure landing zones for infantry, destroy enemy fortifications, or protect the slower-moving transports. Commanders could use Cobras strategically by deploying them like they deploy heavy tanks in the original Hell Let Loose game to tip the balance in firepower in critical engagements. One of the key roles outlined for helicopters by the developers of Hell Let Loose Vietnam is reconnaissance. So in walks the small but agile Hughes OH-6 Cayuse, known as the Loach. The Loach was a nimble scout helicopter used for reconnaissance, spotting potential landing zones, coordinating artillery and airstrikes, and even drawing enemy fire for the attack helicopters or gunships to target. It was often paired with Cobras in so-called hunter-killer teams. The Loach entered service in 1967, replacing the Bell H-1 Sioux. It had a crew of 2, its pilot, and the observer/spotter. There was limited room for a maximum of 4 passengers, but that was with the seats folded down at the back. Loaches could be used to reveal enemy positions, help mark artillery targets, or act as bait to lure anti-air fire into the open. Players who master Loach could provide vital intel for squads and provide information about the success of artillery strikes, making it a high skill, high reward vehicle that has to keep on the move so it doesn't get shot down. Another scout helicopter which saw action in Vietnam was the Bell OH-58 Kiowa. The Kiowa entered service in 1969, performing a similar reconnaissance role as the Loach, which it would go on to replace in a slightly different scouting role. Kiowas might allow for longer range reconnaissance with reduced exposure to enemy fire. Rather than intended to be used as bait for enemy ground fire, the Kiowas were meant to observe the battlefield and relay enemy positions and adjust artillery or airstrikes from a greater distance, so it could offer a slightly safer but less agile alternative to the Loach on later war maps from 1969 onwards. Both the Loach and Kiowa initially were deployed unarmed, although later in the war they did receive some modifications to allow M60 door guns or other armaments. But generally speaking, these were scout vehicles which didn't have any armaments of their own. Moving now to the big boys, we have to talk about the potential inclusion of the Boeing CH-47 Chinook. The Chinook is a tandem rotor heavy lift helicopter capable of moving large numbers of troops, supplies, or even sling lifting heavy equipment such as tanks, artillery guns, or other helicopters, and even patrol boats. It had a crew of a pilot, co-pilot, crew chief, and optional door gunners with M60s or M134 miniguns. In the real world, these would carry anywhere between 33 and 44 fully armed troops, or carry large cargo via its internal hold, or sling load large pieces of equipment beneath its fuselage. Chinooks could play the ultimate team transport role in the game, moving more than half of the 50-player team into remote zones or dropping a lot of supplies to key locations. They might also allow creative tactical plays, like quickly reinforcing a contested objective or redeploying artillery or mortar units across the map. Protecting Chinooks could become a major priority for the commanders and their team on the US side, while they'd present a juicy target for the NVA. Chinooks, if they are added to the game, would be available across all maps because they entered service in 1962 and saw their first combat use in 1965. Another heavy lift option could be the Sikorsky CH-54 Tahe or Sky Crane. The Sky Crane was basically a flying crane, designed for heavy lift missions rather than troop transport. It had a crew of a pilot, co-pilot, and crew chief, plus potential loadmasters. It could be used to sling load vehicles, heavy artillery, or large amounts of supplies for engineers to build fire bases across the maps. In Hell Let Loose Vietnam, the Sky Crane could act as airborne logistics hub, moving critical equipment or supplies, or reinforcing fire bases with massive supply drops. Deploying them effectively could be a game changer for map control and maintaining those strategic supply lines if we get any game modes which encourage that kind of logistical support. So, that's our roundup of the likely helicopters in Hell Let Loose Vietnam, from Hueys, Cobras to Loaches, Kiowas, Chinooks and Sky Cranes, each one bringing a unique role, challenge and tactical opportunities. But which helicopters are you most excited to fly or take down when the game launches? How do you want helicopter controls to feel in the game? Easy to pick up or challenging for maximum realism? Let me know in the comments and let me know if I've forgotten any of the iconic helicopters of the era, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more Hell Let Loose Vietnam coverage. I'll see you on the battlefield.